What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and if you're a fan of the Amazing series, like Amazing Encounters and Places, or some of the other Kickstarters we've talked about here in the past, well, I have good news for you. Amazing Encounters and Locations went live today, and has already been funded here on Kickstarter. 99 backers already. It's only gone live today. It's already passed its funding goal, and one of the great things is there's really no worry here, because all the content that you're going to see in this was already written, so it's set to come out early next year with no problems there. Now, again, we talked about the Amazing series. You might recognize CZRPG here. We've talked about them in the past here, right? Amazing Encounters and Places, Amazing Encounters and Quests, Amazing Encounters and Locations. As I said right here, I have Amazing Encounters and Places. It is a wonderfully beautiful book. I mean, this one here, how big is this one? 300 pages? And I mean, look at the detail, right? You're getting maps, you're getting new monsters, encounters, and so on. I mean, the quality is definitely here, right? You cannot argue that. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to get in this particular Kickstarter. And there also is, I'll skip ahead to the start here, but there's a preview of the first encounter, Worm Lake, for you to just download for free. And it's actually pretty cool to you could run it. It's a level, basically low level, level 1 to 2 encounter, but you can just run it right now. So you can see here, it's going to be roughly 240 pages, 12 locations and their lore ready to drop into your world. With lore and plot, it goes from levels 1 to 12, and unlike some of the previous things in the Amazing series, this is designed to basically be run contiguously as a campaign to get you from 1 to 12. And again, I say this all the time, but I'm busy. I'm always doing something, whether it's my day job, whether it's Nerd Immersion, whether it's family stuff, home improvements, DIY, anything I can do to cut my prep time and just make things easier for me is, even if it's something that I'll read through and it'll give me inspiration to morph and evolve into my own campaign, I will gladly do that. And this is something that's going to do that for me. So we talked about the encounters. Battle maps too, which is wild, the amount of maps that you're going to get. So if you're a map lover and you want to get a bunch of cool, unique maps, this is also a fantastic way to do it. 38 battle maps. They're all contained in the book. There will be options for digital files and virtual tabletops if you're not a physical person. And again, there are versions of the maps as well. It says 350 plus map versions, right? We've talked about this as a really nice quality of life to have, like, hey, here's a map. What if it was also snowing on that map? Stuff like that. 31 new monsters, and then again, original creature artwork. Again, I told you Worm Lake here preview is for free. We'll take a look at that briefly here in just a minute. Also, if you back here on day 1, within the first 24 hours, you'll get the Forbidden Citadel, a 13th location added to your catalog. Normally, the main section here is only 12. You're going to get the 13th one. So it says, as opposed to our first book, as I was saying, Amazing Encounters and Places, which is the book that I've been referencing here in person, each encounter in this book is designed to be run for a specific range, but again, to be an overarching kind of campaign to bring you from level 1 to 12. Let's see, it says, these 12 locations were delivered separately in 2022 through our Patreon, but we're now encapsulating them into a single book. Which again, that's part of the beauty of this. Some people really belabor lengthy production times for books, or things like that. Or, you know, and sometimes when people run Kickstarters, the content isn't written, right? In some instances, when people do run a Kickstarter, they already have everything in the backlog ready to go so they can deliver it relatively quickly. All of the separate content here was delivered already, so the turnaround time to get this into a final package for you is going to be relatively short, even with the holidays happening. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a breakdown of what you're going to look at. You've got a map, you've got sort of the lore, the overarching plot of the story itself. It's broken down into individual encounters. You've got stat blocks. Again, we'll see that when we go and look at the Worm Lake preview. And then again, this is showing off the different maps that were released throughout the Patreon. So this was the January maps and the February, March. And look, you can see some variety and variations here. May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. All of those locations. Goes on to say that it's only $3,000 to fund it because, again, as I said, all of the work's already been done in the background. It says these books will be delivered via print on demand, so there's no production costs on the Kickstarter, which is also a nice thing to see. Sometimes that does, in fact, drive up the cost of funding goals and things on a Kickstarter because you need to pay for printing. This will be print on demand. So if you say, hey, I want a hardcover, that will be developed and printed for you. Whereas if you just want digital, they won't have had to make things ahead of time, if that makes sense. All right, let's just go ahead and scroll down. I don't think there's too much more. We can take a look. Okay, pledge tiers. $25 gets you the PDF. All right, $30 will get you the hardcover. That's a pretty good deal for a hardcover book alone for $30 of around 240 pages. That's solid, and it's going to come with the PDF, right? You can get for $45 the PDF and all of the digital maps. This is going to be the one if you want to have the alternative map versions. This is going to be the one for you. Because, again, if you're getting the physical book, you're not going to get all the different versions of the maps. For $50, you can get hardcover and digital. That'll get you the PDF. It'll get you the 50 digital maps as well as all the different versions of them, as well as the hardcover. And then for a grand total of $80, that's going to get you everything they've developed in the past, right? Amazing encounters and locations, amazing encounters and quests, amazing encounters and places, 50 digital maps for amazing encounters and locations. Again, 350 versions of those, 36 maps for Amazing Encounter and Quests with 335 versions, and 64 maps from Amazing Encounters and Places with 490 versions of them. So that is a total of 150 maps with over 1,000 different versions of those maps. And then again, for $90, everything we just talked about, and then all 3 hardcovers. That's honestly a really solid deal any way you slice it. $90 for 3 240 plus page books and over 1,000 maps plus all of them in PDF. That's a really good bang for your buck situation. We're coming up to the holiday season here, right? I will be doing a gift guide earlier in December than I did last year, which was my bad. But I know it's not going to deliver until early next year, but I mean an IOU for this massive package of things coming next year. Also, some of these are already available via DriveThruRPG, so you may have those PDFs immediately. I feel like that's something that's often overlooked as a gift idea. PDFs go a long way. It might not seem like you're gifting somebody something physically, but giving somebody a really solid D&D book or RPG book via PDF is still a really solid gift. All right, then for $140, it gets even crazier, right? So everything we just talked about, as well as an STL file for the Ever Hungry, here you can see right here, all of the maps, additional premium maps for coasts, forests, mountains, naval, river, and swamps with over 50 maps, 500 versions of those. We've now jumped up our map count to 200 with over 1,700 different versions. For $150, I think this is the final one. This is all in, everything possibly. For $150, you're going to get all 3 books, right? Encounters and Locations, Encounters and Quests, Encounters and Places, PDF. You're going to get Encounters and Places, The Hunt, the specific adventure there. The Hunt includes the STL file for the brand new monster, the Ever Hungry. The Hunt includes a 60 by 60 map with its 70 versions. You're going to get the maps for Amazing Encounters and Locations, Quests, Places. You're going to get all the additional maps, which is, again, that grand total of 200 maps plus 1,700 different versions. And then all 3 hardcovers of these books print on demand when they're available. We're talking about, here's some STLs, right? The Ever Hungry and so on. And then there are some stretch goals here, which we did crack the first one, which is Art Update 1. There's a new STL coming here in the future for it. And as I said, if you were to take a look at the delivery time on these, right, the PDF is set to deliver to you in February of 2024. Again, a reminder that we are coming up into the holiday season, so some people take off. So getting this in February is a pretty quick turnaround. And again, the hardcover, also something for a lot of you folks out there, ships to anywhere in the world. Consider that, because I know, unfortunately, in some instances, it's a really big bummer for a lot of people that you cannot get the hardcover for the book or thing you see on Kickstarter shipped to where you are. And that's extremely unfortunate if you love something and you're like, I love to have a physical copy of this, but it only ships to, you know, the UK or the United States in the UK or wherever you are. Print on demand ships anywhere in the world. So, and again, planning to deliver that in March of next year. That's a pretty quick turnaround. So that's pretty awesome to see. Again, and it doesn't really change what degree of this you want to get. If you want to go with all the digital maps and it's all digital, you're still getting that in February. You want to go with all of the hardcovers, you're still going to get that in March. If you scroll down, you'll notice that the delivery dates for these don't change. So it doesn't matter if you want to get one set of digital things or you want to get everything for $150, your turnaround delivery is still March. I talk I talk a lot about a lot of Kickstarters and things here, but I've worked with CZRPG in the past. By the way, I didn't say it at the start, so thank you to them for sponsoring this video. But they make quality content, and there's a reason why they've had very successful Kickstarters thus far. There's reasons why in just a couple of hours this thing's already doubled. It's pretty much doubled its funding goal at this point. And it's because the quality and the work is there, right? You wouldn't have been able to develop all of this stuff on a Patreon initially if there wasn't content and people clamoring to have this. And honestly, for a lot of us, this is actually a pretty smart move. If you produce content on a Patreon, sometimes people love PDFs, and I know people that are pretty much exclusive digital PDF people. I am still old school, and I like my physical things in my hands. I like to have tangible books and things. So taking all of that, I mean, who knows, right? There may be people who have already been backing this on Kickstarter, and they just say, hey, I just want to get it again, but have it in a physical form. Now, I did promise you we were going to take a look at Worm Lake, so let's just go through that real quick and see. This is, again, the kind of intro, as you can see here, if we were to scroll down. Amazing encounters and locations. Here you can see there's locations 1 through 12. And then, again, we have the Troubled Vale here with Worm Lake as our first encounter here. So you can see it has Life Den. This is sort of the the kind of lore of the area. Then you have the overarching plot broken out here. We have a map. Again, they all kind of follow a similar structure. We get into a couple of adventure hooks here. Then here we have a brand new monster type, which I really like, because I think this one's really interesting because it brings back the concept of minions, right? The minions. This is, I think, this is 4th edition introduced the concept of minions, low-level monsters that like have 1 HP and are designed to be cinematically killed, but they can still do things if they're able to get to people. And I like the Famished One minion here because it actually can be a goblin, a hobgoblin, or an orc, and they just have different things based on the class or the race that they are, right? So we can see right here, Famished One, goblin or orc, so it has a melee weapon, and it says if it's a goblin, it can immediately move up to half its speed within 5 feet of the target without provoking attacks of opportunity. If it's a hobgoblin, it just does extra damage, or if it's an orc, it can force a wisdom saving throw. And then again, it has some bonus actions depending on the type of creature that it is. And then it actually goes on to talk about the fact that it is a minion. It says minions are weak creatures designed to give a more cinematic heroism to combat, allowing even lower level characters to cut down foes in a single strike without needing for more complex tracking from the DM. Minions have 1 hit point and are instantly killed if reduced to 0 hit points, unless a creature chooses to attack non-lethally. Additionally, if the minion is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a saving throw to take only half damage, it instead takes no damage if it succeeds on the saving throw, meaning that it will survive a spell attack, but it can be cleaved down with the 1 hit point. And, I mean, you might say, like, oh, well, it's got a 15 AC and 1 hit point. That'll be an easy kill. And again, that's kind of the point. But you can throw a handful of these at a party, even a low-level party, and they can wipe them up. I mean, 1 good AoE spell if the save is high enough or something like that. Again, they do have basically evasion, but, well, only if they only if they succeed, right? If they succeed, they take no damage, but if they fail, they'll still take half, and they only have 1 hit point, so they'll still take the damage. But they could do a D8 plus 2 damage, and then again, if it's a hobgoblin, it's going to do an extra D6, so it can still do a decent amount of damage to a level 1 or low level party, but can be easily taken out by that party because it is a minion. I think this is something that, again, especially living in a world post Baldur's Gate 3, I think the minion concept should be readapted more readily into 5th edition games. And I've said it before, right? If I were to get into a combat with like 30 enemies at a D&D table, it would feel grueling. But I get excited when I get into a Baldur's Gate 3 combat with a whole bunch of enemies, because how am I going to work my way out of it? And I feel like for the most part, one, some of it might be because I can see the health of those enemies. But also, I know that for the most part, also possibly because I can see their health, that some of those enemies will have lesser hit points. So like one decent AoE can just take them all out. So I'm wondering if that's because it makes you feel more heroic when like one potentially low level spell can just knock out 4 enemies. And if they're 4 1 HP minions, that might be the way to go. So I do think there is something to this. And again, we can kind of move into a second encounter. We have combat and social encounters here. We got more maps. I also really like that the rewards have specific things that they say, like, right, there's different things you can get from helping different people, but it says right here, and this is something I don't, again, only really works if you're using experience points, but it says, if the party saves Dirk, award them XP equal to a hard encounter, meaning that it would not normally be a hard encounter, but if they manage to save this particular character, you're now giving them extra experience points, as though, and again, this is using encounter creation rules, right? If you look in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's like, if it's a hard encounter, they get this much XP. If it's a medium encounter, they get this much. Or I forget, it's not medium, but whatever the terminology is. And I like that, incentivizing, and this is one of those things that, again, feels good, right? You complete the encounter, great. Dirk dies, fine, you still get experience points. But had you saved him, you get a little bit more. And I think I like that kind of reward system. Again, we have another unique creature here with a couple of different options as far as damage types and things they can do. Again, if the party saves Eleanor, give them extra experience points. And then we actually get a legendary magic item pretty much right here at the start, the Blood Gem, which I guess, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, but I'm going to read it to you because I think it's really cool. Wondrous item, legendary, requires attunement. It says, the warm light. The Blood Gem sheds bright light in a 20-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. Any creature within the bright light produced by it has resistance to cold damage. It says, make me whole again. If you spend 1 minute touching the gemstone, you gain the following benefits. You gain the benefits of a long rest. Any effect that is causing you to be blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, or poisoned ends. Any effect that reduces one or more of your ability scores or your hit point maximum ends. Any curse or disease afflicting you ends. And any severed body members, fingers, legs, tails, and so on, if any, are now restored. Once used, this property cannot be used again for 7 days. And then it also has protective measures. When you speak the gem's command word as an action while within 30 feet of it, it becomes warded until you speak the command word again in this manner. While this magic persists, the gemstone cannot be moved, and the first creature who touches the gemstone on a turn takes 10d6 fire damage. And I really like it. It has cool lore about a silver dragon. It's just a really cool kind of healing gem. And again, it's powerful. No one can argue that. Flat out giving resistance to cold damage in an aura, giving you that possibly with a 1 minute long rest, although it is limited to once per 7 days. And then again, kind of being able to give it that sort of Doctor Strange magic where you can't touch this artifact, trying to peel it off somebody is going to cause you damage. And it can do that damage multiple times on a turn. I think is pretty cool. Again, we have some more maps here and then more encounters as we continue on through the end of this preview. And it goes on to say it right here, right? So party saves Eleanor, award them XP equal to a medium encounter. If they help her with ballistas, award them to a medium encounter. If the party uses any means to support their stealth approach, award them XP equal to a medium encounter. So it's nice to see people also using experience points. I've kind of gotten away from experience points in my games, but I feel like I do think it invested my players more personally. They did seem to enjoy it more, and I felt they were more invested on what was going on. That also might have just been a different time in everybody's life, so who knows. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you once again to CZRPG for sponsoring this video. I will have a link in the video description, the top of the video description, as well as the pinned comment for you to go and check out amazing encounters and locations today. And again, even if you just want to go back and get something like amazing encounters and places, you can go find these over on DriveThruRPG and get these print on demand for yourself. And then you also want to head to, I'll put all the links in the description again, czrpg.com or theamazingrpg.czrpg.com. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.